Okay, now let's see. Turn the volume up on this. Hi, Amy, are you on the line? Can you hear us? Am I on mute?
Hey, Linda, it's Lauren. How are you? With RTC Washtenaw. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad
Good,
you
I'm
can
glad
hear
you're
me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're just eating some pizza, waiting on other folks to get here.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good.
Hi, how are you?
We're good.
Have a better. Help yourself. There's some pizza. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Insert one of our.
And if I recall, this was your idea, right? Construction committee.
I requested.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's pizza from Papa John's.
That's my New Year's resolution.
We can't hear you, Jen. Can you hear us? New Year's resolution not to eat pizza?
She still has
trying to
stuff
be
with you
fit.
too.
You brought what?
We don't, there's none here, right?
No, I'm
Yeah.
selling birthday cookies.
And I was like, really? Like right after the new year, like my new diet is everything? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be healthy. See how it goes.
It's only the 4th day, and so far it's been good. Except for the pizza.
I've already lost a lot of weight. I feel like I can do the pizza.
Because I think in moderation, like one slice, but not like 3.
I might have two. The dough with Papa John's pizza is the best.
Yeah, I actually like the bread. I like thin bread. I like thin bread too.
I love Papa John's. Jen, are you able to hear us? For those of you on the call, we're just waiting a few more minutes before we get started. I'm still trying to coordinate with our first speaker.
Hello.
Dan, is that you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. We can hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't get any audio through my computer, so I had to call in on my phone on the side. So
okay.
But if you can you see anything on my screen yet, or?
No, not yet.
Just me? Okay.
Yeah, just you on camera. So feel free to share your screen, and we're still waiting for folks. So I see our friends at Solve have signed on.
Hi.
Macy Wires. Laura, hi Laura, how are you doing?
Which Laura?
Oh, there's more than one Laura. Well, I saw Laura Calderon. I don't know who else.
That's me. That's
Hi,
me.
Laura.
Hi.
Hi, Jefferson. I'm so glad you were able to join us.
Oh, WSB.
That's right, you are the presenter. I recognize your face.
I'm the last one. The last one they got.
Look, you got good ones.
I did, I was we drove years.
Oh, gosh,
So much better.
Okay, so it's 11:30, and I'm sure we'll have other folks join the call and probably pop in here to our office. But we're going to go ahead and get started to make sure we make the best use of our time. Thank you all for joining us. This is our Agency Public Information Officers meeting. We typically hold these the first Wednesday of every month from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Any agency public information officer within the Alamo area is welcome to join us, and others are always welcome as well. But we try to hold once a quarter an informational meeting where we bring in a speaker to talk on a specific topic. And our topic today is construction communication.
Okay, well, I'm going to get on this webinar.
Oh, hi, sorry. If you just joined us, make sure you put your phone on mute so that we can all hear the speakers. So we have three great speakers for you today. Two of them are with WSP in a prior life. Many of you may know I worked for WSP prior to coming to the Alamo area NPO, and they have a national public involvement and communications group. And it was a pretty strong group when I left. We had like 12 or 13 people, but I think you're upwards of 39 people now in 3 years since I left. So the group's grown considerably, due in large part to some really key projects, one of which is the California High-Speed Rail project that Dan Galvin is working on. And Dan has over 27 years experience in construction communications. He's going to be our first speaker. He will then be followed by the folks from Washoe County. We have Amy. Hi, come on in, join us. We have Amy Cummings and Lauren Ball, and they will be talking to us about the work that they're doing around construction communications and a BRT line there in their area. And then in our offices here at the NPO, we have Ruben Landa, who has joined us, and he has some tremendous experience as well in construction communications, and will be sharing his experience from working on a Phoenix Light Rail project and other efforts throughout his career. So without further delay, I would ask everyone to introduce themselves, but we do have quite a few folks on the line, so I'm just going to go ahead and get us started with our first speaker. Dan, take it away.
Okay, and everyone can see the presentation and hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. Well, thanks for the invitation to talk to everyone. I'll start out just by describing a little bit of what you just did. The WSP Communications and Public Involvement team, as you can see, is pretty well scattered around the country. We've got about a dozen of us working on the high-speed rail project in California, either in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and I'm by myself there in Fresno at the main construction office. And then we've got folks on projects all around the country. I think since this graphic was created, I think we've added a couple more. So it's a pretty good-sized group, and we're involved in a whole lot of really big projects. The biggest, probably, though, is the high-speed rail to build 800 miles of high-speed train between San Francisco and Los Angeles. Goes through the Central Valley. Right now, that's where the initial construction has begun. We've got 119 miles under contract that will construct a piece that'll go from, this is what we have funding for currently, is a piece that'll go from Madera, which is about 30 miles north of Fresno, to Bakersfield, and another piece that will go from Gilroy to San Francisco, and then we need to work on funding and construction of the connection of those two pieces, and then getting it to Los Angeles as well. So we've got a whole lot of work in front of us. That project is really just getting off the ground, but you can see ultimately where it will go. The yellow segments on that map there would connect it to Sacramento and San Diego at some future date. But the first piece that we're trying to get finished is LA to San Francisco over the next 20 years probably is really a realistic expectation. And we've got about a dozen people involved in that, everything, starting with the NEPA process, National Environmental Policy Act, where you have to go out and do all the public outreach and environmental justice and stakeholder outreach, all the things that you do before construction. And we're all very much involved in that, helping out the authority to just get the thing started and helping them along in the construction end of things in Fresno, where they've begun working on the project. And the buildhsr.com is our construction-specific website if anyone's interested in seeing the actual work that we've got underway currently. That's a good place to get that. We've got another website as well that has everything about the project, that including all the environmental documents and you name it, anything associated with the project you can find on our main construction or our main website. But that one's a little hard to wade through, so buildhsr.com is the one I always recommend for people who are interested in finding out about the project. So there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as construction impacts on urban areas. I gather that was kind of the gist of what this meeting's about. But since we're not really in the urban areas yet, we're working in the Central Valley, which is all orchards and grapes and things like that. We're putting a whole lot of construction on the ground there, but we haven't really gotten into any cities yet. So I'll talk a little bit more about what I've been involved in on highway projects in urban areas, which as you mentioned, I've had a lot of experience doing that. I was with Granite Construction Company for about 15 years and with Walsh Construction Company for a couple of years before coming to WSP. So I've got kind of a contractor bias in what I've done and, how I look at projects. So, keep that in mind that, my perspective is kind of how the contractor needs to do this. And this presentation was created sort of with that in mind, helping contractors and getting owners to understand the contractor mindset of, what we can do on a project. So I've always worked on design build projects. That's really the only type of construction I know. And they're becoming more and more common now, and contractors are being given a lot more responsibility for talking to the public about the impact their project has on the public. And while owners will want to maintain control over news media generally, they do want the contractor to be able to go out and talk to the public and, be a little more upfront about responding to complaints and questions about the job. So they need to be aware that they're going to have a role whether they like it or not. They don't really want the responsibility. They don't really see it as their role. They just, want to build the thing and be done with it. But they tend to do the bare minimum then as a result, and don't really see the value of what we do as a general rule. They just want to build their job and get on to the next one. For example, on the high-speed rail project, in construction package 1, which is 33-mile-long corridor, the contractor there, Tudor Perini, Zachary Parsons, didn't even budget for public outreach. They just, anytime they need to spend any money associated with public outreach, they just borrow it from another account on the project. And so they really, contractors really need to focus more on that because they're involved in it whether they like it or not. The having to talk to people and explain themselves is definitely becoming much more the rule now. But they'll also involve DBE companies frequently as a public outreach sub, and they need to reach those DBE goals on any federally funded project, and there's also usually state DBE goals as well. And so they'll usually use a DBE sub public relations firm to do that, and we have a lot of experience and oversight on those companies. We can help them really understand the construction issues because most public relations firms don't have a lot of construction experience. It's kind of a unique niche. And so we can kind of help guide that DBE sub to learn more about how construction issues come up and how to deal with them. And then we can help the contractor focus on doing what he does best while we focus on explaining it. So I developed a number of just really inexpensive tools that help keep the owner and the public and politicians happy, and just allow the contractor to just go out and do the work and not have to take calls from angry homeowners, like one I got actually in Phoenix from an older woman who was certain that one of our workers had stolen her dog. That's not really the type of call that the project manager needs to be taking when he's trying to get a multi-million-dollar project done. So, we can help them out with a lot of things like that. One of the first and most effective things that we came up with is Stakeholders Communications Committee. This is something that involves everyone, all the stakeholders who are impacted in the immediate project corridor. Business owners and operators, local residents, homeowners associations are good ones to get involved in this, and local government folks, public works representatives, and police and fire, and any educational institutions that are in the area. Just bring them in once a month. Everyone sits around a table. The project manager gives a rundown of, okay, here's what's going on, here's what's coming up next. Does anyone have a problem? And then we can all just kind of start two-way communications about a big construction project. It really helps put a human face on a job so that the contractor understands the impact that he's having on the public, and the public can understand the issues that the contractor needs to get resolved to get his project built. And taking the thing out on tours, taking the project out on the road. Public meetings, open houses in particular are helpful. Get the elected officials informed on what's going on, so that then when a constituent calls them up, they already know a little bit about what's happening, and they can either respond to the constituent themselves, or at least feel like they're not getting blindsided by an issue that's growing in their district. The media also, on projects, I've spent a lot of time with news media, driving them through the job, getting them up as close as I possibly can to the work so that they get the best video that they can, and just sort of establishing friendships, if you will, trying to get to be, in a good working relationship with the news media is very important, so that, if rumors start flying or problems do begin on the project, then they know to call you directly to get the real story. And, the general public also, when the project's just getting started, of course, wants to come in and look at maps and find out exactly what's going to happen and talk to the people who are going to be doing the work. Websites and social media, of course, are vitally important on every project. These are two of the examples from the high-speed rail, our project website. And our Facebook page, everybody's got to have a presence on that nowadays. And, that's either something that we'll be responsible for ourselves, or just provide content to the owner and then they upload it to their site. A weekly email construction alert or update is something that I started like 20 years ago on a project in Arizona that, 20 years ago, email wasn't all that common, but there were enough people who were using it at that point that I started sending out weekly updates about, okay, here's the next week's worth of construction impacts on I-17. We're rebuilding a piece of I-17. And so, Monday through Friday, I'd have all the restrictions that would occur, the detour routes, timing, and everything, and would send that out to hundreds of folks who, anyone who contacted the office, I got their email address and added them to the distribution. And that was something that turned out to be so popular, ADOT wrote it into their specs for all future construction projects. It now is required. And a telephone hotline is also really useful because, for one thing, it's a really good branding opportunity. You have your phone number on everything you produce, any, website page, any publication, any map or press release you send out. Always have your hotline number, and you can come up with like an easy to remember number, like 444-9999 or something like that. Just something that's easy for people to remember. We put them on refrigerator magnets at times and just distributed them at meetings. But people are really shocked when they get a live human on the other end of the phone. And that's something that needs to be, manned by a person so that they get a live voice on the other side when they call. And it eliminates a lot of frustration because people usually get transferred about 6 times when they call the Department of Transportation to ask a question or make a complaint. And so if they've got a hotline number to call and get directly to the source of their frustration, then that helps mitigate that quite a bit. And construction cameras on a project, recommend highly. That's something that you can see we used them on a project, the new I-64.org. That was a reconstruction of about 10 miles of the main east-west highway through the St. Louis metropolitan area. And that website, even though that project ended 9 years ago, that website is still active, and you can see a lot of the things that we did. There are links to the time-lapse videos that we created. Ox Blue is the one construction camera company that we used on that one, but there are many others as well. That, we had cameras in like 6 locations that people could pull up on the website, and they just took a photo about every 15 minutes of whatever they were aimed at, whatever part of the project they were aimed at. And so at the end of it, we had 6 pretty impressive time-lapse videos that people could play on their website. So, and again, that's something that the news media appreciates as well, to be able to insert into their TV news stories. Group presentations are always important, going out and talking to the Kiwanis clubs and the Rotary clubs and folks like that. Getting the face-to-face contact, again, putting a human face on a big project is important, and eliminates a lot of frustration. People know who's responsible and who to call when they have a question. Project information boards can either be the ones that you see posted alongside of a project, that say your tax dollars at work, or they can be like this one here, which was from a project I did in Minneapolis, rebuilding part of the outer loop outside of town, and posted that inside a local mall. I got permission to put it up. It's about 6 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. There's a pocket for newsletters and just basic project information with contact info, and again, website address and hotline number on it. Just, again, always trying to get people to know how to get in touch with you if they want to. We do a monthly construction update on high-speed rail. That's a front page of one of the last or most recent ones. That goes out to thousands of people on high-speed rail. I used to print them out and either distribute them through door hanger companies or through like a bulk mail account. But everyone seems to be going more toward electronic now. So that's a lot cheaper and a lot easier, and it's just a much better way to go than having to worry about, did your newsletter actually get delivered, or did the guy just take your money and dump it in the garbage, which has happened as well. And as far as news media relations go, we've had experience with that a great deal. Other times, the owner wants to take full responsibility for that. Usually state agencies want to keep control of that aspect of a project, but like the St. Louis project I mentioned, we were 100% responsible for the news media. I dealt with any news media interviews, press conferences, or anything like that. They were involved as well. The Missouri DOT was involved as well, but the contractor was definitely taking the lead on that, which was kind of unusual for a construction project. Let's just, reiterate some of the traveling exhibits, being out in the public, where people who, being able to reach people who don't have computers, don't go on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. This gives them a chance to come in and, you lay out the plans, and people find their house on the map, and they can see just directly how impacted they're going to be. And going around to try and, just face-to-face retail type public outreach is, a real useful thing to do. It's, a little more time consuming, and you need a few more bodies to help with it, but it pays off in the end. Website I've talked about already, but linking to and from impacted business websites is important. Lots of companies will have their own website, and, they'll put a link to yours on their website, and you do the same for them, so that, you keep that two-way communication working. Social media, same thing, you have to keep up on that. Mobile applications are much more common now than when I started with them. You can go online and find web apps or like application software online that's free, and actually manufacture your own phone app now. I mean, it's become really simple, and again, that's nothing that costs a whole lot of money. And the WSP was really an early adopter of social media and using that as one of its main tools in public outreach, managing 35 different platforms for clients all over the country for rail, highway, bridge projects, you name it. That's something that WSP has been involved in quite a bit. From the start, again, from the NEPA process all the way through construction and, all the way to the ribbon cutting. And that's really the best way to get your, message out to thousands of people, and, allows you to respond, find out exactly how they're feeling about what you're doing to them. And women is apparently they're apparently the main audience on social media. That surveys have determined that, those are the majority of the audience that you're talking to on a social media platform. And you can always respond, always responding is the most important part. Don't just check it on a once a week basis. That's something you really need to check every day, because there'll be people out there that, put, rumors on your Facebook page that they heard something that their friend told them, and then all of a sudden it's on your Facebook page, and, it starts getting spread. So you do need to maintain that and correct misinformation, politely, of course, but, it's important to really take control of those sites. Otherwise, the way social media is, who knows what directions it can go. And it's also good to have, the Spanish language aspects of it. That's a big part, especially in the southwestern United States. Linda, I understand that you were involved in some of that with WSP, with doing some of the translations. But,
yes, I think that's one of my posts, and I think you showed one of my flyers earlier too.
Yeah. So that's a vitally important part of this process now, is to make sure you're not just talking to the same folks all the time, because particularly in the Southwest, that's a big issue. And like, as I said, own your site. Make sure that you're the one who's leading the discussion on Facebook and on Twitter. Because there will always be the malcontents who get on there and want to accuse you of things, and just sometimes they're just misinformed. They're complaining about a pothole on their street that has absolutely nothing to do with your freeway project. But so you have to kind of guide the general public through the message that you want them to have. And this is the kind of response you get in return. When you're really on top of it and you respond quickly, people are really surprised, especially when it comes from a government platform like, for a construction project like this. They don't really expect a really quick turnaround, generally speaking, from a Department of Transportation or from a transportation authority or something like that. It's not something that people are used to getting a really quick response to, and so you can score so many points just by responding to somebody's question in the same day that they pose it. So it's something to keep in mind. That's very important. And again, it's not a real high cost item, but it scores you a lot of points with people. This is where you get into a little more of a cost item, though. Some of the digital visualizations, renderings, photo simulations, animations. These are the things that, can show people before and after. Here's the current condition, and then here's, after the project's finished, what it'll look like. You just need to engage a few graphic artists to do things like that. A lot of design engineering firms will have someone on staff who does things like this to show people the finished product so that they can understand, the final outcome of all of this headache will be worth it, because look at how nice this will look when it's all said and done. It also helps, the graphics also helps a lot with the news media. If you can provide them with things to fill holes in their stories, you'll make lots of friends that way too. And And people, the general public generally, they have a hard time making sense out of the 2D plan sheets that we're used to looking at. Sometimes I get lost in these things too. And so just imagine, after all the years I've been looking at them, I still can sometimes not make heads or tails of things. But the general public needs a little more help. So that's why we create animations like this one here that will help take them through it step by step, show them exactly what's being proposed and how it'll work. And
you'll stay on that slide for a bit. We have a little lag. I'm hoping it'll come through. Stay on that slide for a bit because we're having a little lag on the animation.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. And
It's working now?
It went from slow to too fast, but that's okay. I think we got the gist.
Well, I think it's just about over, but I can move on from that one. But you get the picture. It's people like to see pictures. They don't want to read a lot, but being able to see lots of photos like that counts for a lot. Aerial and drone photography is a real big thing now. This is an aerial photo I shot. I fly the corridor on a quarterly basis and just stick my camera out the window of the plane and shoot photos of the progress that we're making on high-speed rail. Primarily because, this segment right here, this is the San Joaquin Viaduct in that photo. It's right alongside State Route 99. Everybody can see that one. But as you can follow the track back through the orchard there to the north, you get away from heavily traveled roads, and so people don't even know what you're doing. So it's helpful to show people that even out in the boondocks, there's progress occurring. And so I do this on a quarterly basis, just fly over the whole construction package 1. Takes about an hour to do it, and I just Googled plane rental Fresno and found a flight school that would fly me up for $239 an hour. And so, I gotten quotes from aerial photographers for like $3,000 for one flight. So I was able to cut some of the cost out of that. But it's really useful stuff, looks really good online, and helps people understand, just you are making progress, even though you might not be able to see it every day. There's things happening out there. And making sure your website answers questions that people care about. It's good to have all the environmental documents and things like that, but this is from a project that I was on in Pennsylvania. It's still active. They're just finishing up now. It was to rebuild 558 bridges all across the state of Pennsylvania. So what I wanted was a map of the state and each county highlighted, and so that you could click on a county and it would bring up a page that showed all of the bridges that were going to be rebuilt in that county, along with the route that was impacted, the body of water that it crossed over, and then you click on that and it takes you to a specific page for that bridge that then construction contractors could get information about how they could bid on rebuilding it. It was a pretty comprehensive site, but you can check that out. PARapidbridges.com is the web address. That one's still there. But, it also has, the website also has the usual stuff of, who the contractor is, what the project is all about, what we're trying to accomplish, and so forth. But, and it's also a link to the quarterly construction updates that people can download as a PDF. So it's making sure your website has useful information. That's really your goal. And this other page here is from a website that came from the I-64 project in St. Louis. Each one of those little dots on the map is a pop-up menu that, the small businesses that might not have their own website, like a little restaurant or something, you click on one of those flags and you get a pop-up menu that allows you to download a map of how to get around the closure, detour information, menu items even for like a restaurant or something. Like item number 2, the Chess Club Hall of Fame. Now you can imagine all the people who were desperate to get there, but you can just click on any one of those little spots on the map and find out all about how to get there, their hours of operation, and so forth. And again, this was something that turned out to be so popular that the city still uses it. Get Around St. Louis is still an active site, and this is something I downloaded just about a week ago. So a lot of these things we come up with on the fly wind up having a lot more longevity than we even expected. And celebrate your accomplishments. This is the I-64 project again. At the end of it, we ran a 5K on the 5 miles that we were just opening. We got thousands of people to turn out for it. We probably had about 10,000 people over the course of the day just walking on the freeway, riding their bikes. People set up card tables and were playing poker in the middle of the freeway. They really had a lot of fun with it. And people were so appreciative of the public outreach that we did and the efforts that we made and got the project finished on time and on budget. We were getting sent gift baskets from the general public sent to a construction project. So it was pretty unique, but you know, again, the amount of effort that we made on it was unique as well. And just to be as responsive as you possibly can does produce a lot of benefits. And our communications guide, this is something that we came up with. Daryl Cole and was the main leader on this. He was the main lead on creating this. It's kind of like a one-size-fits-all 50-page guide on how to approach public outreach on a large project. This is something that's available to anyone who might want a copy. Came out with it a couple of years ago, and it was very well received by a lot of the DOTs that we provided it to. So again, that's something that anyone's able to get a copy if that is something you could use. Has lots of the tools and techniques that I've talked about here briefly. So that's all I've got to say for now. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
His name is Dan.
Dan, question. This is Razzie from City of San Antonio. We do a lot of project construction. On good number of the projects, we send a weekly report. And when there is a really very standard report, not much really new happening, people end up really ignoring and reading those emails. What's your view? We send them something unusual is happening, like we have road closure or we change the facing or something other than just a typical update.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, if there's something that people need to know, you know, like, you know, an accident or something like that, I think that's also a useful thing to put out there. It's not just a once a week and that's all type of solution. You know, I think it's something that people can, you know, use to send out just emergency info or, you know, progress photos or, you know, anything like that. Just, you know, if somebody gives you their email address and wants general information, you know, I'd say, sure, send them that and the weekly update stuff as well.
And Dan, I think the question is, and we run into it as well, is when you're sending a weekly email, you know, sometimes you don't have a whole lot that's new, so people just start to ignore it after a while. But then every now and then you have something that's really important. What can you do to make it stand out or to get them not to tune out your emails?
The question is to send when there is important activity, not bi-weekly information.
Right. Well, I think, you know, having it, you know, using as many graphics so it stands out, you know, that I think that's one way to help. But yeah, if you're just sending out something, you know, mechanically, then it can get kind of lost. It becomes more like spam, and you don't want to just get routed to a spam folder. You know, that's going to happen. I'm afraid, you know, just over a long project, over a couple 3 years of a construction project, you know, that's going to be a problem. But, you know, all I can think of is, you know, really, you know, relying more on graphics so that it, you know, it jumps off the screen a little bit more. If they open it, it's not just text, you know, that you're using more photos and video and things like that.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, maybe you could do something with the subject lines too.
Yeah, and I'll probably touch it on.
Okay.
Are we gonna have time at the end to ask all three presenters?
Yeah, I think we'll probably hold any more questions until the end, so that way we can have the opportunity to ask all our presenters. Next up, we have Amy Cummings and Lauren Ball. Thank you so much, Stan, by the way.
You bet.
And I think they're going to share their screen, so we'll give them some time to do that. And let's let them get going.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is Amy Cummings and Lauren Ball from the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County. And we really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all. We are trying to share our screen now. Can it work? Do you guys see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it now.
Oh, great. Thank you. This is a project that started construction last fall, and it's an extension of a BRT line that today just goes to our downtown Reno, and we're going to extend it up to the University of Nevada, Reno, which is to the north a little bit. And we're also reconstructing a portion of the roadway in what we call our Midtown District, which is this emerging, vibrant local business district and entertainment area. A little bit about RTC as an organization. I'm trying to advance slides and it's not going, so it may just be a delay. Okay, bear with us. We have a 5-member board that includes elected officials from the City of Reno, the City of Sparks, and Washoe County.
Oh, and I think we actually have your presenter view on our screen.
Oh.
For some reason. Which is
Thank
fine.
you for letting us know.
Yeah.
That better?
It's still doing it, but it works. I mean, we can still see it.
Yeah, we follow.
Well, I'll just keep talking while Lauren is figuring out our technology, so we keep everybody on schedule.
Yeah, just how you were doing it is fine. I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
And
the ways that we're able...
Oh, there you are. Perfect.
Oh, good. Thank you. One of the ways we're able to have an integrated planning and project delivery process is that as an organization, we're the MPO, we're also the transit service provider, and we're responsible for regional road construction. So we have a lot of skill sets in one organization.
Interesting.
And since we're focusing mostly on transit today, just for background information, we have a system that provides about 8 million rides a year, and we have 26 routes that serve the Reno-Sparks metro area. And we're really excited about our electric bus program. We started in 2014 with 4 Proterra buses that we received through a Tigger grant, and last year we added 17 more Proterras, including 4 for our Lincoln Line BRT project that just opened up in December. So we're really pleased with the technology, and that's working great and helping us with our air quality here in Reno-Sparks. And I know we're primarily focusing on construction outreach, but on this project, it's really important to step back and look at the planning process that led to the project development. So the outreach for this project really started 5 or 6 years ago when we were doing our regional transportation plan. And out of that, we did a lot of outreach with the university and local businesses, and the Virginia Street BRT extension came out of that process as one of the top priorities for the region. We were able to then advance that to a UPWP funded planning study, and that was done in 2014, where we got a lot of community engagement, again, started working with the university in more detail and local businesses and residents to identify the basic scope of the project limits, the purpose and need, and some of the design elements. So we had a strong foundation of working with the community when we started our NEPA in design in 2015, and that's where we really had an in-depth, sort of no-holds-barred community outreach process with a series of workshops. We really got people engaged in the fine-grained details, And what was really key here is there was a huge diversity of opinions on what people wanted to see in the corridor. So we documented all the comments that we received, and when we had follow-up meetings, we would report back on how we addressed those, if we were able to incorporate them. If not, we described why we were not able to incorporate those into design concepts. And we brought back a series of alternatives. And they were looking at the different options for bike lanes and sidewalk widths, and do you have a center turn lane? How do you manage driveway closures and consolidations, and all of those things, the bus stop locations. So we had a really robust community input process and participation. And it's these people who have a lot of the same people who've been with us through these planning studies are still with us today, and they're, with the businesses that are affected. So because we have this track record of being responsive and listening and really taking their comments seriously, I think that's paid off a lot for where we are today. Because as we know, the construction is the really difficult part for the businesses and the residents. So for them to know us and know how to get in touch with us and kind of be comfortable with us as staff has really been helpful. Here's a little bit more about the project itself. So the pictures here, the before and after, that's our Midtown corridor. We have sections of sidewalk that are 18 inches with poles in the middle. It really has a lot of challenges. It's very narrow. We have a lot of old commercial buildings, a lot of local businesses. We don't really have much in terms of national chains in this corridor, so it's businesses that are all, well, many of them are just sort of new and establishing themselves. So they, bring to us their concerns that they're fragile. They're concerned about businesses surviving the construction. We're adding 8 new BRT stations, 2 electric buses, upgrading all the sidewalks, adding street trees, and lighting. We're doing a lot of safety improvements. It's a high crash. We have a lot of pedestrian collisions in this corridor, so it's a transit project, but we're really upgrading pedestrian safety and infrastructure as well. And as I said, we're getting up to UNR, and there's a picture of their beautiful campus on the other side. So we started our construction for phase 1, which was utility relocation, in September. It's about over an $80 million project. And I'm going to hand it over to Lauren to go into more detail, because as our public information officer, she has been out, I don't want to say daily, but almost daily.
A lot.
Yes, a lot, with our businesses out in the Midtown area. And we had a video, but we're not going to show it because we don't want to have technology glitches, so we'll just keep moving.
Yeah, so just to kind of talk a little bit more about our outreach. So as Amy mentioned, we've worked very closely with these business owners over the years as we developed our construction plan. So we finally started construction in September of 2018. And that was really key because hearing from the business owners, we have Burning Man here sort of just outside of Reno the last weekend of August, first weekend of September. So we wanted to make sure that when we finally did kick off our construction that we weren't going to be interfering with any of their Burning Man business. We have a ton of people, thousands of people come to town and descend on Reno before they go out to the desert to go to Burning Man. So that was one of the things that we worked with business owners on right as we started construction. We didn't really get our NEPA until June of 2018, and then our contract wasn't approved until August, and then we started construction, as I mentioned, in September. So one of the things we would have done just a little bit differently was start our outreach a little bit earlier so that businesses, everyone along that corridor, there are a ton of businesses, kind of knew what was going on and what was happening and when construction would start. And then one of the things that we really did to make our project outreach a success was responding quickly to business owners and residents along that corridor, and also forming a really strong partnership with the Midtown Merchants Association. They were able to help us get the word out to many more people than we could have on our own. And they sort of are advocates for the project. They'll talk to business owners. Construction, of course, has an impact, but, when it's done, this construction is going to help your business. It's going to help people be safer. It's going to encourage more people to come down here. So having them on our side and being responsive to them has really been a huge asset to us as we progress throughout this project. In addition, we also were able to work with a sub-consultant, and that sub-consultant is just dedicated to outreach coordination within that Midtown corridor. So that person, she works with us to sort of develop some of our plans, our outreach activities, our weekly emails that we send out, and she also helps us respond to businesses and residents along that corridor. And we also do our weekly stakeholder email update, which is something Dan had mentioned as well. And we have all of our current projects that we're working on, any promotions or events that we have coming up are in that email, as well as, of course, any upcoming construction activities that people need to know about in that area. And I mentioned before that this community is really, really involved, and you can see this is one of the photo on the bottom is one of our business meetings that we had before we started construction, and it was a packed house. People were very interested in what we were going to do, and they were very involved throughout the whole process. Some of the events that we've held throughout construction, we really wanted to encourage people to continue to visit Midtown, even though there were a lot of cones and it might be a little bit intimidating. So we had a variety of events and promotions to encourage people to continue to visit that area. One of those things we had to kick off construction right before Burning Man, we held a community block party. So we invited all the businesses and all the residents in that area, the whole community really, to come down to our block party. And one of the draws was you could be eligible for an opportunity to receive Burning Man tickets. So that, of course, was a huge draw. They're really hard to come by. So if you have a couple extra right before the event, it's really a hot ticket. So that really helped us gather some community, gather the community for a party. And also, while you're here to get some Burning Man tickets, learn about our construction project. So that was great. We also had a holiday party where we did a giveaway for $1,000 in Midtown gift cards. We had a Tastes and Treats event in October where you could visit different Midtown businesses with your little passport, and then you bring your passport back to our construction booth for a chance to get some prizes. And we've also been doing monthly construction lunches. So at a random location, of course, we know in advance, but the community doesn't. The day of, if you show up to, a restaurant, the first 25 people get free lunch paid for by the construction team. So that's always fun, and it's a great way to build goodwill. We also delivered cookies to some Midtown businesses recently. And just kind of some fun events to continue to bring people to businesses and support our local economy. Some of the promotions that we've held, we've really been pushing the hashtag Virginia Street Project on social media, and we want people to see other people having fun in Midtown, even though there are a bunch of cones. So, even though there's construction going on, you can still go to a nice restaurant, you can still walk the streets with your friends and go shopping, there's still entertainment that you can go enjoy. So that was really our push behind that. And we also did a Thanksgiving promotion where anybody who shared a photo with that hashtag, the construction team would donate a turkey to a family in need. So that was popular. We also did the 12 Merry Days of Midtown. That was one of our recent holiday promotions where we segmented the different kinds of businesses in this area into 12 different themed days. So you can see on the graphic, the one that's on there was day 2, which was beauty. So any beauty salons or nail salons, things like that. And if you posted, you would be eligible to get a $25 gift card. And then at the end, we, of course, gave away $1,000 in gift cards. So that was a really great promotion. And as you can see on the next slide, these are a bunch of people who posted using that hashtag on Instagram and Facebook. And they're all just having a really good time in Midtown. And that helps us really with our public image to support that idea that, there is construction, but you can still have a great time. You can still have fun. Look at these people having fun. And one of the other things we've done, of course, is just traditional media outreach. We've been really involved in building relationships with our local media and making sure that they have the complete story of construction and are helping us get the word out about not only our promotions, but about construction progress. So actually a majority of our construction media stories have been very, very positive. They've promoted our promotions for us, which has been great. The businesses have really appreciated a lot of the things that we've done to mitigate the impacts of construction. So they've spoken very highly of not only the construction project, but of what it's like to work with the RTC team, our staff, and also the projects team as well. So that's been hugely helpful for us. And some of the things that we've done to really mitigate the impact, we've provided detour mapping. So if a business wants to have a graphic of its own to show its customers how to get to its business, we will make you a custom map that shows exactly how to get there. We've also worked with our construction team to develop a partnership with Lyft Rideshare. So if you can see on the map on the screen, if you use the code RAPID, you can go anywhere within that blue shaded area and you will get 50% off of your Lyft ride up to $10 off. So that's been great. That's built a lot of goodwill as well, and we can actually track how many people are coming into Midtown based on our promotion. We've also been giving away bus passes, and we have dedicated maps on our project website, virginiastreetproject.com as well. And some of the things that we've done, again, to mitigate those impacts, we've created some temporary parking spaces. The street is entirely closed to northbound traffic, but of course we're not working on that entire northbound corridor. So the places that we're not working, our construction team has created extra parking, which the businesses have loved. They rave about it to the news, they rave about it to anybody who will listen. They've been touting our 84 new parking spots, and that's been really great for us as well. We've worked with the businesses to develop detour signage. If they have signage problems, we'll get right on that and make sure that they have extra signage. And we also learned one of our previous projects, which was sort of a similar length in nature. We got criticized for not having crews out working along that entire corridor the entire time. So the street would be shut down in parts, but there wouldn't be any work going on. And that's something that we really wanted to correct with this project. So with the Virginia Street Project, we have 6 crews working at the same time. If you drive anywhere along that corridor, you are going to see work going on. There's visible activity all the time. So people know that progress is being made, and they see those crews out there. Some of the lessons that we've learned: build a track record of reliability and responsiveness. These business owners, they have our cell phone numbers. We have a project number as well, but they know how to get a hold of us and do get a hold of us 24 hours a day. Which is great. We have relationships with them. We work to correct any issues or concerns that they may have, and they know to come to us. They're not calling the media to complain, and we're able to resolve those issues quickly and keep those lines of communication open. We also provide as much notice on construction activities as possible. We work with businesses to say, hey, your water might be off for 10 minutes on Tuesday as we fix the line here. So that's been great. We continuously communicate. Traditional media, social media, our stakeholder updates, our website. There's information. If you want it, you can find it. And also keep it fun. We have had a bunch of fun events. Construction doesn't have to be, boring. We can spice it up. We can make it fun. We can get people to continue to visit areas in our construction zone. Use hashtags. Develop a project hashtag and get your community in on the action and using it to have some fun. And that's it. If anybody has any questions, Amy and I would be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Lauren and Amy. I'm sure we do have questions, but I'm going to ask that we hold them as we get through our last speaker, and then we can ask them all there at the end. So it's my turn to share my screen, and everyone else did it so easily, so I hope I can manage the same. Okay. That's amazing. I love it. Every single time it says that. Can everyone see our screen? Can you hear me?
We don't see the screen, but we hear you.
Okay, but you can't see the screen.
Don't see anything but an FE right now. No phone.
You see a WSP?
No, now I see a picture of the group.
Oh, dear. Okay, hold on. Hi. You can see us. Hold on, let me go back. Let's try again. Oh, and everything went away. Why did everything go away? Why would it do that?
Huh.
Can you still see us?
I get a message that says, due to low bandwidth or local computer conditions, such as CPU or RAM use, video is not currently available. Video will resume automatically when conditions improve.
Yeah, so somehow I got booted off, and I'm trying to log back on now. So just give me a second, and I should be there shortly, and I will try a different way to share my screen. Oops, the first way didn't work. Yes, I want to join the meeting. Somebody told me it wasn't going to be that easy for me. Okay.
Oh.
We're coming back. And now, connect and start video. So we should be back on your screen. Oh. Okay. Thank you. Hello? Oh dear. Hello?
That might be because it's two screens.
Hello?
I think it might be two
Okay,
screens.
I think you got video back again.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so we've got two things working. Let's see if we can you see the PowerPoint?
There we go. Yeah, I got Ruben's PowerPoint here.
Okay. You can see it?
Yeah, I can see it and hear you.
We can see it too.
Yay. So you might want to get closer because now it's operating off the laptop.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Ruben Landa, and he's the Senior Communications Manager with WSP USA out of the Fort Worth, Dallas office.
So that works too. Well, welcome. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. What I plan to do is talk a little bit about construction management more from an urban perspective. I know we talked more from a global, looking at High Speed Rail, California. Talked about urban with the ladies up in the West Coast. I want to talk a little bit about a project that's a little dated, but at the end of this presentation, I want to talk about a lot of things that have applied on other projects here locally in Texas. So the project that I want to talk about is the Central Phoenix East Valley Light Rail project. And next slide. This was built between 2003 and 2008. It was actually a 10-year project, considering all the environmental planning leading up to operation. It's a $1.5 billion project. As you can see, here's the scope: 20-mile line, 32 stations, 8 park and rides, EMF, and it was divided into 5 line sections. The agency was Valley Metro Rail, and the partnering cities is Phoenix, Tempe, and Mesa. Now, we're talking about impacts. So this project had significant impacts across the board. One that's more important to everybody in the room in our discussion is the fact that we had over 4,000 businesses that were directly impacted. Those are businesses within a 1/4 mile radius on both sides of the alignment from point A to point Z. Some of the major stakeholders that we had to take into account, had to develop partnerships to make sure that we were working with them during construction, was the Phoenix Convention Center, Chase Field, the Arizona Diamondbacks home, U.S. Airways, which is now Talking Stick, not Resort Arena, for the Phoenix Suns, Scott Harbour International Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in the U.S., Gateway Community College, Arizona State University, which has over 50,000 students. I believe they're the largest university in the country by population, so in terms of student population. Sun Devil Stadium, Wells Fargo Arena, Fiesta Bowl. Again, this is 2003, 2008. Fiesta Bowl is no longer at Sun Devil Stadium. It's at the University of Phoenix Stadium. But at the time, Fiesta Bowl was being held at that stadium. Inside Bowl at Chase Field, the Fiesta Bowl Parade in Central Phoenix, and of course, NCAA Regional Finals. They've had them periodically. They had it during our construction time period. So we had to work with those different entities and those programs to make sure that we were coordinating with them construction activity to make sure that it had the least amount of impacts on their patrons and people accessing those venues. So what we did is we created a construction outreach plan, and it's divided into different segments. Communication, these are very, very traditional, so a lot of the stuff you've already heard, but we will talk a little bit about some of the innovative stuff that we could have done and did. 24/7 hotline. We obviously had a project website, which we used as we tried to direct all the traffic to the website to get them to all the different documents that they need to see, whether traffic control maps, construction updates, fact sheets, newsletters, the things that you want to send out, but sometimes you feel like it's going to kind of get boring and you're going to stop looking at it. So what we try to do is we try to find ways to direct people and create traffic to the website so they could go there as a clearinghouse location of information. So we did that. Email correspondence and mass distribution. We, in addition to canvassing, I know you guys know what that means. We're going out to meet with people one-on-one. In addition to canvassing, the email correspondence was key, especially for professionals that really don't have time to interact with us on a day-to-day basis. One-on-one meetings with business stakeholders and groups. We developed partnership with groups because they were also a need to get the word out on information. We had quarterly and biannual construction update meetings being started quarterly and changed to biannually because, again, the participation would dwindle over time when people felt like they understood the project. They didn't feel the need to go to every single meeting, so you'll see the numbers go down. So that was, again, we were trying to direct people to the website for information. And then community advisory boards, CABs, those are made up of opinion leaders, political leaders, business leaders that came together and they did a couple of things. One, they evaluated the performance of the contractor, and that evaluation had money at the end of it. So if they did a good job of fulfilling the requirements in the contract to say you must do all these things for the public during the course of the project, and they would be evaluated on a quarterly basis, and they would receive financial incentives for accomplishing those goals. So they had a financial incentive to do the right thing. They shouldn't have. You shouldn't have to give. You're already paying them a contract, and you're already giving them money, and they're already making money off of the opportunity to build this project. But you gave them additional funds for actually doing what's right for the community. So it was an incentive-based program. Operations, street closure notifications. We would never close. We would never close a street or close access points without 2-week prior notification. Okay, and what we did is we provided those hand-to-hand to the business owners, make sure that they have the information so we can answer any questions that they may have. Traffic circulation plans were given to some of the bigger, bigger entities like the downtown Phoenix district, or Arizona State University or Sky Harbor that has many access points and whatnot. So we would develop a circulation plan for them and give them an update when the time went by. Construction signage banners, in addition to what you saw in the previous slides, we had the basic business access signs. We also had a plastic A-frame signs that you could fit in, a corrugated plastic sign that had their logo and said business open and kind of direct them to where they're at. So we also provide those in addition, above and beyond the metal signs that we typically provide to businesses. We maintain access at all times during business operations. So what that forced our contractors to do is do construction at night, okay, to make sure that access was not impacted. We also maintain pedestrian right-of-way. So we use the yellow plastic tape, the type 3 barricades and whatnot, and we basically made sure every single day that there was adequate pedestrian access throughout the entire 20-mile line. Marketing assistance. A construction advertisement campaign where we went out and we had billboards, signage, kiosks, through the airports, downtown, everywhere we went. There was something out there saying construction, operation coming soon every year to kind of create some anticipation on there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, the construction is not perpetually going to happen forever. We want to remind people, hey, it's coming, it's coming. So thank you for your commitment and your patience. We developed collateral and website contact promoting light rail businesses. I mean, we went out of the way. We had a huge budget where we helped provide a lot of collateral to promote businesses on their behalf to help them get the word out that they're still open for business. One of the things we did is we created a light rail business directory so then we could get out and let people know what businesses are all in alignment and develop a directory that was given to them hard copy and also on the website so they know who's out there to remind people, hey, we know you're not going into the construction zone, but hey, don't forget that these people are still there. So it was a way for us to try to get the word out that the business is still open. The Metro Max shopping cart was a very successful program. What that did is we had businesses that opted in and they would basically provide discount for whatever services they provide. Anybody that was service them, they get a card, they just pull out the little perforated card, a Metro Max card, and if they go there, says, hey, do you have a discount? Sure, it's this. So what it did, it forced people, it drove traffic to these businesses to find out what that discount is. They knew there was a discount at the end of there's going to be some type of discount. She didn't know what it was, she had to go in to find out. But you knew if you went in there, you might find something that would benefit you. So that was a real successful program, which we're still even doing now just during operation. Okay, this project, operation started 10 years ago, and they're still using the Metro Max card. Encourage Valley Metro Rail staff to patronize businesses. I always won this internal contest because the goal was to get as many members of the Valley Metro Rail team and contractors to patronize their businesses. So you had to keep like a little log of everywhere you went, and I had all my earrings were along the alignment. So I was real long, and I would always win. But of course, I was cheating because that was my job. But anyway, that was a good way to make sure that we were committed to bringing business back to the businesses that were being impacted by our project. Development partner business organizations, kind of mentioned that earlier, all the chambers of commerce, advocacy groups, community groups, we make sure that we partner with them and try to find ways to promote businesses within their form or their sphere of influence. We develop technical assistance programs. You know, one of the things that businesses typically need to do during the construction is they need to redevelop the business paradigm on how they conduct business and how they market. Okay, they probably have been successful, you know, following a business plan on how they felt that they could grow and make money. But during construction, things change. There's less people coming in. So how do you remarket? How do you attract businesses? What's the hook of getting people to come back to your business, even if construction is out there? And so we would have our partnership with SCORE, SELF, SDBC, which is a Small Business Development Council, which is usually in partnership with the community colleges. They provide technical assistance to small businesses to help redevelop their business plan. And so what we did is we partnered with those organizations and ASU, and they went to the businesses that were interested and went there and helped them redo their business plan for construction. Develop basically an advertising and marketing plan. And that was all free. So that was really neat. Bring light rail businesses to other cities with businesses that have experienced light rail. At the very beginning, we, businesses that have been very supportive and businesses that were kind of on the fence, we actually secured sponsors to send business owners along the alignment to Portland, to Utah, okay, to go and see how other light rail systems were built and how they were built in very urban areas, to see how it could be done if it's done right, and to have the personnel at those agencies talk about how they manage that process so they could hear success stories. So we did that so then they could come back and we did case studies and stories. The media did stories with these people like, well, you went, what did you see? Well, what I saw was a success story, and this is what it looks like. Now I feel a little bit more comfortable. Valley Metro Rail, we secure sponsors from the business community. Okay. The big companies that were very supportive of light rail, that didn't want to be derailed, if you will, really wanted to spend money to help promote the project. And we saw that this is a really good way to get buy-in, is to send people to cities to look at where it was successful, and then have them come back and speak to our media and press about what they saw and how they feel a little bit more comfortable about what they're about to experience. So it was a really good experience. Okay, on staffing, this is important. We had a business outreach manager, which at the time was me, and we had a community outreach manager. We had area coordinators for each line section. We had 5 line sections, so we had 5. So together, we were the voice out there. We were the face of Valley Metro Rail. We were the ones that were communicating the opportunities that are available in the business outreach plan. We were able to determine which was a community issue or was a business issue, and then we assigned appropriately who would manage those things. We also made sure that we had the right personnel from the construction side that were available to answer any questions that maybe I or the area coordinators were not able to answer. Technical questions about scheduling, about construction activities, whatever it may be relative to construction. So we had the LRT light rail project engineer, which we call a resident engineer. We had staff, safety engineer, and we also had the contractor staff equivalent, a project manager, superintendent, a safety officer, and quality control manager. Those individuals were always available whenever we had a meeting with someone, or they were available when we had a question and needed to respond to us quickly so we could get information to the stakeholder or business. So we always had specific people that were assigned this role. So it was not like we're trying to run around and look for someone to give us an answer. We knew exactly where we needed to go to get an answer. So that was very helpful. Now, you know the saying, if I knew then what I know now, I'd be rich. Mm-hmm. If I knew then what I know now in terms of the opportunities we have today in terms of tools, that program would have been so much more successful if we had those tools in. What I mean is, back then, we didn't have these things, which we take advantage, we take for granted now. But back then, we didn't have social media. the way we have it today. Social media wasn't used as a primary tool of communication, which it is today. So obviously we would have used Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram to get the word out, to color this very colorful picture of how great the project is. Online survey and comment collection platform like MetroQuest and SurveyMonkey, those were not in existence then. MetroQuest, which TxDOT uses as one of their favorite type of tools, is a great way to do crowdsourcing and identify specific issues and pinpoint the areas where there's the most issues of concern that we need to look at. So that's a really good way, really good platform to collect information from the public about what's important to them, what the issues are, and whatnot. And throughout the entire process, from planning to design to construction, MetroQuest can be a very useful tool. Same thing with SurveyMonkey. It's more a simpler platform to collect information from the public. WSP recently signed a national license with MetroQuest, and now it's a standard program that we provide for all of our public involvement projects throughout the country. To answer your question earlier about what you can do to maintain interest in updates, newsletters, fact sheets, project information, that stuff needs to be on your website, and you need to find a way to direct people to the website that maintain traffic to the website, to make sure that they understand that's a clearinghouse of information. If they need something, they can always go to the website. But when it comes to stuff that is very immediate and very important, that's where the app and text messaging platforms come into play. Give you an example, and it does not relate to this project. One of the TxDOT projects where I manage the public involvement was the Horseshoe Project in Dallas, which is $1 billion reconstruction of the I-30, I-35 interchange in downtown Dallas. Well, that impacted the entire downtown Dallas district. I mean, you can't get any more business than that. But what they needed was a method of getting information, construction information like lane closures, lane switches, accidents, weekend closures, when they're going to when the freeway system was going to be completely open because of major events like Texas OU or Dallas Cowboy games or whatever. We had the ability to send text messaging and app messaging to people immediately. So when they know that when they get that is specifically about important information real time, they're going to always react to it positively because they know it's important information to know. But if they just want to get if they want to get a project update, or they just want to know how things are going or how the project is progressing, they should go to the website for that. So you need to find a way to direct people to the website for that type of information. So then people's anticipation when they get a text message or app, it's important information they need to read. So that's how they do that. And then, of course, 3D visualization. We do project visualization at WSP. A lot of our peer organization companies do the same thing. You know, back in the day, one of the things we do, one of the struggles we have in public involvement and communications is we have to develop a visual of what we're trying to do when you're communicating verbally to people. And you think you're telling everybody you're painting this perfect picture of what a project's going to look like and what the process is going to be. But everybody in the room has probably got a different perspective of what you're saying. With 3D visualization, you can establish what that looks like for everybody to see together. The media, the press, the impacted community, businesses, stakeholders, people that drive through and drive out of the impacted area, they're all going to see the same thing. So there's no mistaking what everybody has seen and what they think the project's going to look like. And it's so much easier to build consensus and to communicate to people what you're trying to do. You see, and that's why 3D visualization, animation, simulations are so key, not only to the public involvement, but also the construction side, the technical side. So that's something that you're seeing more and more. I know TxDOT is wanting that more and more because it's a really good tool for building consensus and support for a project. Just to give you an outcome to the Central Phoenix East Valley Light Rail project, last week was the 10-year anniversary of its opening. It's one of the most successful light rail projects in the U.S., and they also passed last year a 25-year extension of their transportation tax, which calls for $50 billion of additional light rail in the valley. So that right there is huge because when we built the first 20-mile line, we struggled to get people to understand how beneficial this would be to them. And we worked with them very hard to convince them, just give us a chance, you won't regret it. And now they're saying, like, thank God we did that. So now they're going to expand it all over the entire region. So that's because we work really closely with them. I'm not saying the public involvement was the reason for that, but public involvement was a key component really to support and educating people what it would look like and when it happened is exactly what we said. And that's it.
All right, well, thank you, Ruben. All right, so, am I on mute? Oh, I'm not on that anymore. Okay, so, with that, I'm gonna open it up to any questions that anyone might have.
One question. Ruben, what was the cost of public outreach on this program? How much budget do you have?
Okay, so.
My answer is your budget probably as much as some of our project budget.
Well, notice that there's some things we didn't have at our disposal, okay? I think we probably had a $50,000 budget per year is what we had for the East Valley Light Rail project. And there was not that much technology involved. Now, that does not include the incentives. That was part of the contractor, that was separately. But in terms of all the collateral and it was really not that expensive. We were not using that much technology. That was a traditional. What I showed you with the Phoenix project, that was really traditional, and that still works today. The slide that follows showing what we didn't have at our disposal, that's the innovative, the digital. That's the expensive part.
Well, 50,000 per year is really not bad.
That's not. That's just for. That's not for the staff, of course. That's for the cost of the project, the materials,
okay.
Those things.
How much that cost?
But it depends on how many personnel you have in your staff. But we had 5 area representatives, a public involvement and community communication manager, and then a business outreach manager. So we basically had 8 staffers that were dedicated, but it was 20 miles.
Yeah,
in an urban area, 3 cities. So we had to have that staff. There's no way one person could have done that.
Correct.
I have a question for all 3 speakers.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Oh, no.
I just got a question from Sala saying you weren't able to see the last presentation. Yes, I will absolutely distribute all 3 presentations. Also, Ruben was kind enough to provide the business outreach plan that he discussed for the Phoenix project, so I can share that as well. If you could please just type in your email, because I see some folks that I'm not sure if I have your email or not. So just make sure you type your email in the chat box, and I will email those materials to you. What was your question, Lily? We have a question in the room.
Yeah, so my question is, what are some of the, no-no words that you try to avoid when talking to the public, like toll lanes or road diet, and what language are you substituting it with?
I like basics.
Amy and Lauren, I don't know if you heard that question, but it was, what are some of the words you try to avoid when you're talking to the public about construction, and what words do you use instead?
We get a lot of questions about words having a negative effect on businesses. And so instead of saying, business is down, we're hearing from businesses that they're upset, we say, we know that construction has an impact. And so we kind of just keep it very general. We try to avoid negative language, especially when talking to the media.
And we've included a lot of the Midtown local businesses in this approach as well, and they've really championed this because they don't want negative press coming from business owners, because then that will just further keep people from wanting to come. So getting businesses to not complain to the media has also been, I think, part of the strategy that they have championed themselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Cool. Dan?
Do you have words that you try to avoid?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I would just add that people appreciate it when you don't sugarcoat it. Like the St. Louis project, we told people, look, we understand this is going to be difficult at first. Add a little bit extra time to your commute to get around closures and to, deal with congestion that's inevitable. And, we'll get through this, and the end result will be a better product at the end. So I think it's useful to, face reality and grab the bull by the horn sometimes to just say, look, we understand construction is messy and it can slow you down. So just factor that into your drive time when you need to go somewhere. We're still open for business. The businesses in this impacted area are still working. So, continue to go there. Just add a little bit of drive time.
I would say no negative words ending or collateral, or any words that would perceive negative whatsoever. Nothing like not, or cannot, or anything like that. Anything that could perceive negative, don't use it. Just be very positive. Never say you can't do something when you're specifically talking to a stakeholder in any forum. And the other thing is, be open and transparent. Be very transparent. That's the key. I think every agency, one of the struggles that they have is people feel like they're not transparent. If you're out there and you're the person that's the face of that project, you need to be as transparent as possible, because it helps you in your role as being the face of the project and the PI role. It also helps your client, the agency. And then you said something about tolls. Obviously, in this political climate in Texas, toll roads and managed lanes are kind of a scary word to talk about. But quite frankly, it's important not to shy away from it, because it's part of the formula for paying for the projects that need to happen to resolve our challenges in transportation, particularly in the heavy highways. So tolls are very important, but it's how you word it and how you talk about it as being part of the solution and not being the answer to the problem. I think if you talk about it and how it's a choice and not the only, it's choice. If you want to use managed lanes, use it. If you don't have to. Okay? So it's about how you word it.
Managed lanes.
Managed lanes.
There we go.
Tolls also, frame it as a user fee as well. It's you only have to pay it when you use it.
Yes. And Adnan, if I could get you to hold, because I had a question from Solve, and then I'll come back to you. They typed their question, and now I lost the typed question. But the question was essentially this, and I think it's for Amy and Lauren, because I know I have the same question. Is, do you ever get any pushback for, you mentioned a lot of gift certificates and a lot of the prizes and giveaways. Do you ever get any pushback for those? Because I know here locally we get a lot of scrutiny if folks feel like we're using our public dollars for things like that. Or how do you handle it?
And that's definitely one of our concerns as well. And the way that we handle that really is because we sort of outsource this to our project team. We say that the prizes are coming from our project team versus coming from the RTC. And we haven't really gotten much pushback beyond that. Overall, it's been pretty positive. The people who receive the gift cards are very grateful. And we do kind of be careful with our wording as well. Instead of say, hey, win a gift card, we say, enter for the opportunity to receive a gift card. So just making sure that you run that by your legal team, that the wording is all good, and that people know that you're doing the outreach to support the community, I think are really the key points.
Wonderful. And Adnan, you had a question here in the room?
No, it was actually a thought coming up with Lily's question. I mean, I agree with what everybody was saying, but also as much as also coming from the public sector and representing the government, if you can do as much as possible to not be the government, be a person, exactly, humanize it. Try for the public to see you as much as possible as a person or as people rather than as an agency, because I think that makes them at least a little bit less confrontation. That happens to me all the time when I'm dealing with it. As soon as they can, obviously they have a chance to hear you, stuff like that, it's better when you can do conversations, but as soon as they can see you as not an agency, but all the time I get, well, you all don't know what it's like. Actually, we do. We're stuck in traffic. We hate it. If we don't want it, people go, oh, I didn't know that. Well, yeah. I mean, we live right here. Our project manager lives in that same area. Oh, I didn't know that. So I think as soon as you start at least getting people to see that way a little bit more as people than as the agency, you've won a little bit.
And it's important because I think the more experience you have, it's easier to do because then you can relate to them more. Yeah. And I like to tell stories. And so when I'm talking to these people, I try to tell them a story about something that I've known that's happened, I've seen, that relates to them. And so they can understand, I get where you're coming from. I have a story for you. Let me tell you this experience. And that is very helpful. And it has to do with experience too.
Any other questions from anyone on the phone or in the room?
Okay. I have one for Ruben and then one for Dan, who's still on. I guess, Ruben, with the partnering with the Small Business Development Center at ASU, how did that work Because I imagine there's certain costs associated with that program. How did you handle that?
What we did is we went into, had we call it an interlocal agreement because ASU is considered a government agency. So we had an agreement with them to utilize the LICRO project as a case study for the students to provide those services to them. So ASU didn't have SDVC. That was going to be more of the Maricopa Community College. So Arizona State University, they were able to secure funds, through their funding mechanisms at ASU to commit to paying student stipends to conduct the work to provide the technical assistance to the businesses that signed up for that program. For SBDC and Maricopa County, they too we also had an agreement with them similar. But they already had the apparatus and mechanism in place to do that because that's what SBDC does. They do startups, small business development, plan development and stuff. So this is totally up their alley. What we're doing, we're funneling businesses into that program that they've been trying to attract businesses to. So we gave them the businesses to help make their program successful. So we had that arrangement in place. SCORE itself, they're funded through other sources through the federal government, SBA, and so those programs already had funding. They just needed people to help. So again, we were providing them they could help because we had 4,000 businesses as our pool to work with. So it was really easy to go to, this is what we got, here's our proposition, this is what we need, what we'd like for you to do, how can we put that in place? Their legal counsel talked to our legal counsel, we developed a plan, we signed a dotted line, promoted it. Awesome.
And then for Dan, I thought it was really interesting having the map of the impacted businesses on the website. What was that process to sort of create that map and deciding what information should be made available about all of the businesses?
Well, it's something you work out with them. Like I say, a lot of them don't have their own websites, so you have to kind of walk them through the process. If it's a restaurant, that one's pretty easy. It's just kind of hours of operation, some featured menu items, that sort of thing. Other businesses will just put up just kind of like a small ad, or the other presentation from Nevada, showed just downloadable maps, maps of how to get to them from the, to get around the closures. So you can't really fit a whole lot on the pop-up, but a basic of, here's their hours of operation, here's what they provide, and here's a link to download a map of how to get to them. That seems to be about the most you can fit on there generally.
Was there any problem with, did any businesses come up afterward and say, oh, you left me out, or how did you decide which businesses to include, or how did you find all the businesses to include?
Well, it was really anybody who, we advertised, we let people know, look, if you want to be included on our website, just let us know. And, that was really all there was to it. The people who were interested contacted us, and anybody else who heard about it afterward got added. It was a pretty friendly process, really. We didn't have anyone afterward claim that they had been ignored or anything like that, because the opportunity was always there for them to participate.
You could use GIS mapping as a way to identify all the businesses within a certain area, corridor, if you will, and be able to know who's there, and then use that as your basis of communicating the opportunity to them. And then, as he said, once the program's in place, then you'll find people say, oh, at first I was not interested in that, but I'm interested now. I want to get into that, kind of thing.
Yeah, a few of them saw how it was working out for, the guy next door, and, would join in that way.
I have a question for you, Ruben.
Mm-hmm.
And it's with text messaging.
Yes.
Did you ever get any backlash from people or businesses that weren't subscribed to?
No, you have to subscribe into it. So you only get them unless you want them. But we made sure that we told everybody in the world, because for the Horseshoe Project, it was not only we were able to communicate to the district And then we're also able to communicate to the South Oakland District. And we also had to communicate to 500,000 people that travel through that corridor every single day. So we had to use the media and press to get the word out on how to get the text messaging, messages and stuff, or the smartphone apps messaging. And we had probably tens of thousands of people that registered for that. So if you were getting them, if you get upset you got them, well, then why'd you sign up? That kind of thing. So we're not just sending them to everybody, actually.
And I'm not sure if everyone heard the question on that, but it was if they got any backlash from people that were getting text messages who maybe didn't want them, and the response was just that they had to self-select to be on there.
Mm-hmm.
Any final questions?
So Ruby, this is for you. You mentioned the Community Impact Council, or that was evaluating the project management. How integral do you think a body like that is for a project that's community changing? And
okay, well, the question is the community advisory boards that I mentioned for Phoenix, how effective is that now, considering the way it's it could be very effective. It can still be effective today. It depends on who's on the board. That's the key, is who's on that board. At the time, what we did is the area managers or the area coordinators for each line section were responsible for developing a list of all the key decision makers, opinion leaders, elected officials in that line section. It was a good practice. It was a good exercise for them to make sure they were on top of their leader. And so we selected these candidates, this list, and we selected from that list who we want to be on this community advisory board. We went through the process and explained to them, this is what the process is, this is what your role is, there's some requirements because it's tied to incentives, so it's important you participate. It was very successful. The only issue was it was a long drawn out process because everybody had their opinions. I think it could be effective today, okay, as long as you have the right people on the advisory board, but it would be more effective if there's incentives tied to it. There's a lot of programs where it's just an opportunity to get together and talk about the concerns and whatnot. But if it's got incentives tied to it, then it becomes more valuable. It becomes very, very effective. So it depends on if you're going to have incentives or not. It really is.
And because we've asked a lot of questions in the room, is there anyone on the phone that has a final question? Okay, hearing none, it is 1 o'clock, so I am going to go ahead and wrap up the call. Thank you everyone for joining us. Again, if you would like to receive a copy of the presentations, please enter your email in the chat box or email me directly at alvarado-vela@alamoareanpo.org, and I will send out the presentations and that business action plan that Ruben provided as well. But I really appreciate everyone being on the call today. Our next agency PIO meeting will be the first Wednesday of February at 8:30 a.m. I don't know what date that is, but it will be the first Wednesday of February. Hope to see everyone then. Take care. Bye. Ruben, can I ask you?
Sure.